Hi, I'm Rebecca Dorsey. I'm the co-founder and vice president of Blueprint 1543. Welcome to Stories of Your Success, behind the scenes with Blueprint 1543. We're going to take a sneak peek into what it's been like to partner with Ana Avila on her journey towards becoming an integrated person, doing integrated inquiry, and contributing to an integrated church. Listen along. Ana, it's so great to be here with you on Stories of Your Success, Blueprint Behind the Scenes. Thank you for being willing to be here, or maybe pressured to be here. I don't know. You tell me.
No, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So one of the things that we want to do at Blueprint 1543 is really highlight the success of our partners and those that we're working with, and to be able to share your story. So it's going to be super not awkward. I'm not going to ask you to brag about yourself. Oh, wait, you do know that's already in the notes. So we're just going to talk about who you are and what you've been up to and what you've been able to accomplish and what's next for you. When we first floated this idea to you, what were maybe two or three things that ran through your mind?
Oh, well, it's like success. Me? What do you mean? Maybe that. Maybe that. But no, I'm super excited to share how Blueprint has been a super important part of my journey as a writer, as a speaker, as a content creator. Your help, your guidance, your partnership has been so valuable to me. And I'm just excited to talk a little bit about it and have others know what you guys can do. You are so awesome in what you do. So yeah, I'm so happy to share a little bit about my story, but not to shine light on myself, but on Blueprint actually. Yes, you guys are the star of the show, really.
Well, what's fun is that we'll just sort of flip this then, because my goal would be to highlight you. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start at what in the world is Blueprint and what are we trying to accomplish? So we have three main goals. We're trying to bring about integration. And what does that mean? We want to look at integrated people. Who are we on the inside? The things that we're doing, how do they align? How do we have alignment across our values, across our work, across those spheres of life that are important and matter to us? And we want to look at integrated inquiry. How do we bring different disciplines together to do more robust work than could be done in a solo or in a single siloed discipline? And integrated churches, being able to bring together all of the powerful resources of the people that make up those churches, the disciplines, the backgrounds, and the skills that they bring. So Blueprint is about integrated people, inquiry, and churches. And Ana, you actually perfectly represent sort of the perfect trifecta, all three of those. And it's going to be fun just to share and talk about a little bit of who you are, what you do, and how you work. So let's just start at the very beginning. Who are you? And I thought the fun way that we could do this is to really share, how did we meet? Your perspective and then my perspective, because we're peeking behind the curtain here. And it's always those things that you never say until you have a really well-established friendship. Like, oh, did you know this was my first impression of you? For example, my first impression of Justin was that he had very, shall we say, weird ties. When I first met him, he was wearing a Tasmanian devil tie. That was sort of his thing, was to have the novelty ties. And it was months, if not years later, that I told him how hard I had judged him based on that one thing. So as we think about how long we've known each other and where this all started, I would love to get your perspective. Do you remember when and where you and I first met?
I remember I was super intimidated because you guys were here in Guatemala for some integration work with one of the universities here. And I was just getting into the world of faith and science and religion, writing about it, researching about it. I have a degree in clinical biochemistry, and I'm a Christian, and I'm now studying theology. So I've been interested in this intersection between science and theology, and I've been wanting to learn and write about it. So in my job at Coalición por el Evangelio, the Gospel Coalition Spanish speaking sister, where I'm a writer, I was an editor back then, and we were starting to develop resources regarding science and religion. And since I had a scientific background, I was an editor there. They were like, okay, you're the perfect person to lead this initiative. And I was like, what? Wait, what? So I was just sort of thrown into it. And one of my colleagues at Coalición, I don't know how. I think probably through the university, because I think his parents or someone in his family is related to the university. He knew about you guys, and he had a meeting with you guys at the hotel you were staying, and he was, hey, you should meet these people. They're very good sciencey people. He didn't use the word sciencey, but that's what he meant. And he said you should come, and that was my first ever I don't know, networking work meeting ever, because I have been doing all my work networking interactions through social media till that moment. So I've met all my colleagues and friends through, I don't know, Twitter at that time, or email and things like that. And that was the first, like, oh, there's a meeting you should come to and just meet people without any like specific goal. Like, this is what you want to get out of it. It's just like meeting people. That's what I guess networking is about. But I had no idea about how any of that worked. So I was super intimidated. And I was very pregnant. I was tired and I had no idea what I was doing, but I decided to go and have breakfast with you guys. And I just remember having a blast talking about science and religion stuff with you. And you made me feel super comfortable. You both, Justin and you yourself. And that's what I remember about our first meeting.
Okay, so this was your first ever networking kind of
Yes.
activity as a professional. I didn't know that until this very moment in time.
Yes.
So walking in, now I know at this point about you in our history together, I know that you would classify yourself as an introvert. I was just listening to your recent episode of This Integrated Life with Justin, where you were talking about personality. And can you tell me what percentage of introvert you placed yourself in?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember, but I'm, I'm, I don't know. I break you mentioned I break the scale, so I will take that. I break the scale in introversion. I am, yeah. I struggle. I struggle with people, so it was a challenge for sure.
And what's fun about this is that I break the scale in the opposite direction. I break
Yes.
the scale extroversion. So we have extreme introvert, extreme extrovert coming together over breakfast, your first ever networking. What was it like walking in introvert morning networking? You just said pregnant and tired. I also didn't know those things about you. So there's always so much going on for a person that you don't know about. What were a couple of things you were thinking when you sat down at networking breakfast?
Well, I have been trained since a very small age to just fake it till you make it. It's like just smile and talk and try to do your best, and that's it. So that was my approach. I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea how I was coming across, but I just try to be a part of the conversation and just go along with it. I'm a good pretender. People usually don't realize I'm an introvert until they have spent, I don't know, more than a week with me, and they see me in person, I don't know, for more than 2 hours, and then they go, oh, like, why is she retreating to the back of the room? What is happening? um but yeah, I just try to fake it till I make it, and just try to smile and ask questions and answer things and stuff. So I don't know how I came across, to be honest. I hope I mean, we're still friends and colleagues, so I guess it went well.
You know what's so fun about getting the behind the scenes with somebody is that you came off to me as so cool, calm,
Oh my
collected,
gosh.
professional. Here it is before 8 a.m., and you were fluently speaking your non-native language. For those who know me, I struggle with mornings, and so I always have to sort of dig really deep when we have a breakfast meeting. And I was
Mm.
digging very deep for breakfast meetings. So I was just so impressed with who you were and how you showed up. Fast forward, then you were invited to and came to the lecture that evening. So we got to see you again. And we just struck up a conversation about the things you were interested in, the things that you were wanting to get involved in professionally. And that has led us now, goodness, okay, how many years ago was that? If you were pregnant, you should have a good radar on when that was. I'd have to look at pictures.
Yeah, it was 2018. So that's 6 years ago.
Okay, so 6 years ago, you had these big dreams and goals and ideas, and we said, let's just stay in touch. Relationships before partnerships. Let's just see. There's got to be something here at some point down the road. Let's just see what that could be. And now here we are 6 years later. Let's hear just a little bit about you. In the notes, I had said, be ready to brag about yourself, which I know is extremely uncomfortable. So let's say it a different way. What are some of the things that you get asked to do that you can't believe you're getting asked to do or that you get to do at this point in your career?
Oh gosh. Well, writing and people paying me for writing, that is the dream. I love writing and reading. That's always been one of my biggest passions in life, just books and learning and research and understanding things better and then explaining to other these things that I'm so passionate about. So that just people wanting to hear me teach or explain something to them, that to me is a gift that I don't take for granted. And I want to do well. And Blueprint has definitely helped me do that well. Right now, I'm writing books. I'm producing podcasts and YouTube videos about science and religion topics, as well of different theology, personal development topics that I really am passionate about. So yeah, I think mostly just learning and then sharing what I learned. That is the biggest joy.
So you said I get paid to write. Let's dig into that a little bit. I've heard you throw around the words like book agent, book contract. You're a published author. What are some of the things that you have on contract right now with your agent? What are some of the things you're writing?
Well, right now I'm working on a book about personal devotion. A lot of Christians get thrown into their new faith without much guidance about how to go about learning about God and growing in holiness and in understanding. And a lot of them are very intimidated to ask. So I am trying to create a resource that is something very accessible, friendly, easy to read about how to start developing the spiritual disciplines that will conduce to our growth and to our learning about God. And right now we're working on selling two books, one about how to think well. We want to help people to use their minds properly. And one about the limits of science. This is something Justin and I have thought about and talked about a lot in the past few years about how science is an amazing tool, but it's limited. And we need to understand in what ways it helps us and in what ways it just falls short from where we are asking it to answer. So those are two books that I'm thinking about right now and hoping to sell in the future.
Okay. So you're getting paid to read, write, think, basically your dream job. Backtrack to breakfast 6 or more years ago. What were some of the things that got you from that breakfast to where you are now?
Well, on that breakfast, it was the beginning of a lot of opportunities coming my way to actually do this writing and research and teaching thing. I was doing that before, but the projects that were coming my way in that season were more complex, more challenging and intellectually, I guess. And I was feeling challenged and sort of alone in the process. I felt that there was a lot that I needed to learn, and I wasn't sure exactly how to go about and learn it because it was on the spot while I was actually researching and producing things and contacting different authors. I was just very overwhelmed. So meeting you guys, understanding how you work, and learning from Justin and from you about how to do this integration thing really helped me to improve and start gaining more and more confidence to do this job well.
What are some of the specific challenges you faced that seemed most difficult to work through?
Well, one of the things that I've always struggled with is knowing when to stop. Again, I love the researching and the reading and the learning, but anyone who does professional studying or research knows that there's always so much more to learn. Another article you can look at, another book you can read. It just feels like it's never enough. You're never, you don't have enough to actually build a solid case. You're always worried about, well, what if I'm missing something? Um, so that was one of the challenges that I needed to produce articles and books and podcast episodes and courses and events and all the things. And it was just a lot. And for every project, I just wanted to know everything about everything. And that was paralyzing. So learning how to do proper research, knowing when to stop, and actually be content with a solid argument, even though I haven't read all the articles in the world and all the books, or yeah, know all the objections, but doing a good enough job to present to people, and knowing that no article, no book, no podcast episode is the final point of the conversation. It's just something you add into the conversation, and then people respond, and you can do another article or another book or another podcast episode. And that's okay. That's how intellectual conversations work. Understanding that really helped me to start working through the paralysis that I was feeling at that moment. I still struggle with it, but I think I have more tools now to actually face that challenge and overcome it.
Yeah. So, are you ready and willing to peek behind the scenes of how you overcame some of those challenges?
Let's do it. Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a forced answer,
It-
but we'll go with it.
yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
So we'll peek behind the scenes then on working with Blueprint in building your success story. And because confidentiality is a super fun thing, I actually can't say anything more about the work that you and I did, but you can. So, do
Yay.
you consent to me asking you some questions about the secrets to your success and the work that we've done?
Yes, I do. I consent.
Okay. So, what did it look like to work with Blueprint? What were some of the things that you were doing?
Well, well, it's been like several steps. When we started like having conversations, Blueprint was more of a resource for me. This is a great place where people meet and have awesome conversations that I'm very interested about. So Blueprint was sort of the hub I went to, like to meet theologians and psychologists and other scientists that would be good resources for my work. And I remember going to one of the theopsych events you guys put together and just meeting a ton of people. And again, this was another one of this first networking type of things I started doing to get to know people and see what they were up to, and grab book recommendations, and just to be aware of what was happening in the science and religion space. I remember in that trip I took to California, when we were together, we were at a bookstore and we were sitting down. And I remember we had a conversation, you and me. And that's where I realized you were an extrovert. I mean, I sort of suspected it, but at that moment, I realized that you were a very different kind of extrovert, because you were asking me all these questions and they were not uncomfortable at all. You were coaching me, and I had no idea at that moment, but you're getting to know me, and that was so nice. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is the easiest conversation I've had with an extrovert like ever. So that was awesome. Just getting to know you and your skills, because later we have worked together in coaching, and you have helped me through a ton of the challenges that come with writing and researching and producing content. Um, and after that period where you guys were a resource, and I started continuing to produce articles and videos and all of that. I remember that project ended, and I was given the opportunity to continue to do these things, to continue to write about science and religion and produce podcasts. Um, but I remember that I wanted more guidance, like more formal guidance. So in the other Theopsych event I was also invited to, but this one was a virtual one. I got to a meeting with Justin, a private meeting, and I was sharing with him about what the process had been with producing content, and I decided to just say, like, I need more guidance. I feel alone. I feel like I need there's a lot to learn still, but I have no clue of how to do it, because at that point, yes, I had all these resources that I could get to, books and people and reading materials and courses and things I could learn from, but I had no structure on how to go about and learn all these things that I wanted to learn. So when I reached out to Justin, I was telling him all these, and he was like, "Okay, I want to help you." And that was mind blowing to me. Like, he was interested in helping me personally to grow as a thinker and as a writer in the science and religion space. So we wrote a proposal for a project, and we ended up working together for a couple of years with this particular goal of training me to be a science and religion thinker who is integrated and is effective in her work.
Okay. So we talk sometimes about Blueprint having two sides to what we do. Sometimes we call it a double-headed monster, but we're talking in more professional language. We are helping to demonstrate how to be an integrated person, how to do integrated inquiry, how to build integrated churches. So some of the doing of the work, the teaching, the training, sort of demonstrating how to do that research. And then on the other side, the facilitation, that we want to facilitate others doing that integrated work. And so we use sort of the consulting and the coaching and the training models within that demonstration and facilitation. So I know you worked mostly with Justin and what I would call the Rent Justin's Brain program,
Yes.
or consulting on the psychology, the psych science, doing of the research there. What is one thing that impacted you from that consulting and demonstration work with Justin?
One of the things I admire a lot about Justin is how chill he is. His brain is amazing. He knows a lot about a lot of things. But he's super casual and super relaxed, and he has a way of sharing his knowledge in a down to earth, uncomplicated way. He's not pretentious at all. He's just a guy who loves God and loves science, and he wants to share that love with other people. And I just felt so at ease with him. I was able to just share what was on my mind, even though I was having maybe a crazy idea or I don't know, a controversial thought that popped into my mind, and I could just discuss it with him. And it was not the end of the world. It was not a class. It was like discussion, and he would ask all these questions with genuine interest in what I had to think. And he would point toward maybe other evidence that I hadn't considered, but it was also relaxed. And I enjoy that because I used to think that everything was so high stakes and that I needed to have a definite answer for everything right now. And I hadn't allowed myself to just take the time to relax and explore and ask questions without feeling the pressure of having a perfect answer right away. So that's been one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about working with Justin. It's just really enjoyable, the process of learning and exploring and asking questions and getting answers. So he's been such an inspiration for me of how does it look to be an intellectually rigorous person with a huge love of God and a huge love for knowledge and science, that really impacts people in a profound way.
So as you're going out from here into building the next things, what are you taking with you that you've learned there?
Well, so many things. But again, I think that the joy, I remember once when Justin was here in Guatemala and we were talking about my work. And I remember I said this in Spanish because we were practicing his Spanish. So I said, siento que estoy jugando a ser intelectual. I feel like I'm playing as if I am an intellectual, but not as in playing as a play, but as a game. Like I'm pretend playing that I'm an intellectual. I don't know how you say that in English, but that was the idea. And just trying to express that I didn't feel like the real thing. I was just faking it till I make it, I guess. And he just turned to me and said, "What is wrong with playing?" And that to me was so profound and simple and like, oh, that's right. I mean, the things are not that serious. I mean, God is in heaven, He's in control. Things are going to work out in the end. We get to be here and do our best and enjoy the process of doing our work, even if it feels like play. It doesn't have to look a certain way because, again, I come from a small town in a small country. I maybe haven't gone to the greatest universities to become blah 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 this intellectual type thingy. So I've always have this sense of inferiority. So that's, I guess, where my feeling of I'm faking it, I'm playing, rather than being the actual thing came from. But he was like, "What's wrong with playing? Like, enjoy it. Don't feel like you have to be this stereotype intellectual type thingy to value your work, to actually think your work is something that's worth it." So I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm trying to take with me after that time of close work with Justin, that I hope it continues for many, many years. Just enjoy it, play, have fun. Um, of course, there are serious things going on in the world, but in the end, at the end of the day, we are not that big of a deal. So it's okay to just chill and have fun and do your best and trust that God is going to take care of things.
What was so powerful for you about his comeback there?
I didn't expect it at all. I was expecting either him dismissing it as like, oh, like you are a real thinker, shut up and get over it, um, or I don't know, something like that. But it was so unexpected. The fact that he would say like, it's okay to play, to have fun, to don't fit the mold of what is expected of an intellectual or a writer or a thinker or whatever. I guess I just have had this idea of what my work should look like or my studies should look like, or my trajectory, I guess, should look like, instead of embracing the fact that it looks very different from the typical writer thinker life, I guess. But that's okay. And you can have fun with it.
Well, thank you for sharing all of those stories. I didn't realize that y'all did your sessions in Spanish.
While he was in Guatemala, it was one of the
Oh,
goals we had. He wanted to
translation.
practice his Spanish. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It
that
was the only time where I felt I was smarter than Justin.
see, smart is all about context. Justin always
Yeah.
said to me in the beginning, there's no such thing as the smartest person in the room. It's the smartest person based on what we're doing or what the
Mm.
topic is, what we're talking about. And so, absolutely, smartest person in the room in that conversation. Let's shift to talking about the coaching partnership that we had a little bit. Now, coaching is always a really funny thing to talk about because people don't know what it is, but also have a lot of ideas about what it is. And we get a lot of pushback about using coaching, especially when we're writing grant applications. I think because it's this entity that can be, anything from somebody who just hangs a shingle outside and says, I'm a coach, all the way to, certified and trained graduate level degree coaching. So let's talk about what it is just briefly. If you think about any successful person out there, every successful person has a partner, somebody who is partnering with them in their success, somebody that is supporting them, somebody that is helping them to strategize, to focus, to clarify their goals, to make action steps and get clarity on how to move forward. And that's coaching. When we apply that then into the academic context or into a scholarly context, it's partnering with you to accomplish those research projects that you want to do, the writing projects, being there at your side at every turn with whatever is coming your way to help you increase your success, your productivity, and the enjoyment of that process. So we had the privilege of partnering together in that way. What was that like to go into, if you could even remember back, our first coaching session?
Oh, gosh, I don't remember the first session, but I had no idea what coaching was. And it is very ironic because I'm pretty sure my dad is some sort of certified coach. I'm so clueless about his job. I know he's a psychologist and he did therapy for a while. Then he was a teacher. But I remember he doing something about coaching. I've never asked. So he might be as a coach like you are. I don't know if they're a different type of coach, but I knew nothing about it, even though my dad is literally one. So, um, I had no
So we
idea
might have a
what to expect.
follow-up then note here of what happens when Anna asks her father, "Hey, are you a coach? What does that look like?" It's amazing the things that
Yeah,
we learn about our
I
family
should
that we
ask.
ask. Okay, okay. So your dad may or may not be a coach. You didn't know what it was. Our first session was so impactful, you cannot even bring it to memory. But
Yes.
what has been impactful or helpful for you about partnering together in this way?
Yeah. Well, as I said before, one of the things that I struggled the most, it was all the possibilities that I had for writing and creating things to share with people. Um, but I was a bit lost on what direction to take, on how to use the resources I had to produce the things I wanted to produce. So having somebody who could ask me the right questions and help me dig out what exactly I wanted to do and how would be the better way to accomplish those goals was so, and still is, so valuable. Just having that space where I can stop and ask myself the questions that I need to move forward without running just into this rat race of trying to cross off things from to-do lists without actually knowing if I'm going in the direction I want to be going to. So yeah, I think that just stopping from time to time to check how are things going and making small changes that can be all the difference in the way that I actually accomplish the things that I said I want to accomplish.
Okay, so it sounds like you had a lot of the plans, but there were just so many things swirling around in your mind that
Yeah.
getting someone to help you narrow down and sort of weed through or pick through them so that you could keep moving forward in the grant
Yes.
work you were doing, the writing that you were doing, the research that you were doing with Justin. Now, sometimes my dear colleagues call it death by a thousand questions. That is because the coaching method uses questions primarily to drive forward. But when did I ever make you want to pull your hair out? Maybe from death by a thousand questions.
I think the hardest question is always the first question that you ask, which is, what can we work on or something like that? What's on your mind that we can go through today that would help you out? That's always like, I have no clue. Like, I'm a mess. Sometimes it's like, I'm a mess. Everything's terrible. I have no idea where to start. So picking something to start with and trying to pull that thread is always the hardest part for me. Once we're in the groove, like, okay, this is something we can work on. Maybe it's scheduling or routines or how to decide which books to read this week to actually finish this project or whatever. Once I decide this is the thing that I should be focusing on the session, everything I think goes out so much smoothly. But just getting there, like picking the thing. Because sometimes everything I feel in my head is terrible. I suck. Everything sucks. I'm gonna die. And everything. And some weeks it's like, oh, I think I'm fine. I don't need anything. But then we poke around and it's like, oh no, I should probably work on this. So yeah, I think that first question is for me always the hardest.
Well, let me normalize that for you. The first question, that focusing question, is the hardest question for almost every client
Oh,
across the
okay.
board, no matter what you're coaching on. That focusing, what are we going to tackle? Because as you said, there are so many things swirling around at any given time that are on your mind, that are on your to do list that you need to accomplish. And taking that time to pause and really find what's the thing that I need to make progress on today? That is always challenging. So let me just normalize that right out the gate. And I am just so happy to hear that those were some of the helpful moments for you in navigating. Now, one of the things that we talked about at the very start of this conversation was the idea of integrated churches, and that you really are working to become an integrated person in all that you do, in all of the areas of your work and life, but also that you are partnering and pouring into some integrated church environments, being able to bring different disciplines together in those churches and ministries. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like for you?
Yeah. Well, since I write primarily for Christian audiences, Christian leaders, churches, or ministry leaders, I guess. Um, a lot of my work, it's helping people see how their faith, their theology, the gospel, um, is related to everyday life things. And for me, working with Justin and with Blueprint, and thanks to the research and the education I've had, for me now is so easy to see those connections, and I'm so grateful for that, to have had developed through the years, and especially through working with Blueprint, this I don't know, vision of seeing maybe a paper on the science of sleep, and then having the ability to say like, oh, and the Bible talks about rest too, and then these is how these two things connect, and this is how people can apply these theological and scientific truths to change their lives. That has been such a gift to be able to do that and help people see that too, see that thing that I now can more and more easily see. um, so pretty much that's what I do. I do a lot of reading on science and theology and just try to connect the dots for people to help them see how these things go so well together, and how that integration can actually change their lives. A lot of the science and religion conversation tends to be very conflict oriented. And I love that Blueprint is not about that game at all. We don't focus on a conflict narrative. We try to, again, do this integration, just show the harmony between the truths of theology and the truths of science, and help people see the beauty of that integration. So when I produce science and religion content, I try to focus on that beauty, on how the science illuminates, I don't know, the science of sleep, I guess, or the mental health things, or things about parenting, or about relationships and conversations, or about how we see and perceive the world. So focusing on those things that people can find helpful to change their life, has been a game changer for me. Not to focus so much on the, oh, our science and religion in conflict, oh, our evolution in science, and those types of things, I don't know, have been done so much that I'm happy to to take to the center stage other type of conversations that involve the beauty of integrating scientific and theological truths to help people change, through the power of the Spirit of God.
You know, what I love about what you just shared are some of the specifics and the examples, because I sometimes find it really hard to wrap my mind around, what do we mean when we say an integrated church or integrated inquiry in this ministry space? And specifics and examples are such an incredible way to share about that. So you saying the science of sleep and looking into the science of sleep habits or whatever it is that you're digging into there, and pairing that with the theological concept of rest and of Sabbath and of rejuvenation, and thinking how both sides of that conversation have incredibly important things to offer. But when we integrate them and bring them together, we can have such a holistic and robust discussion, understanding, and be able to create then action steps to really create transformation in people's lives. So I love that you've just given me a new example, a very specific example of how these things can work together. So thank you for sharing that. As we kind of look ahead, what are some of the things that you're working on next professionally?
Well, as I said before, I'm working on a couple of books. I'm also just hoping to continue with the Piensa podcast, our science and religion podcast at Coalición por el Evangelio. We're taking a break right now, but because we're planning some amazing things for it in the future. So I hope to continue to explore different science and religion topics again from this integrative perspective, not conflicting, but showing the beauty of putting science and theology together. Also, I'm very excited about continuing to grow my online community. One of the things that I've been most passionate about in recent years is the effects of certain technologies in our brain, both again from a scientific perspective and from a theological perspective. A book about that is coming out this summer, and I'm so excited to share it with people, and to build a healthy online community to showcase how can we use technology to actually help people flourish without all the toxic things we see on the internet. So I'm really excited about that too, and just continue to learn. And right now I'm in seminary. I wasn't expecting to go into seminary, but I decided to do it. And right now I'm having so much fun, even though it's very difficult. I'm studying Greek, and I am just so excited to get into different study topics that I never thought I would get into. But again, as always, it's a privilege to learn and to use that knowledge to help people.
So if somebody asked you, who is maybe where you were back at breakfast, kind of interested, passionate, excited about opportunities, but not quite sure how to move forward, if they asked you, if having partners in this process was a good investment, what would you say to them?
I would say you are not meant to go through life alone. I don't know for other jobs, but my type of job, which is basically just being in a room and reading books and then writing about what I've learned through these books, it can be so isolating, and it gets very tiring. But having the resource of people, just people who care about your work, that believe in your work, that can help make your work better, is something that is really, I wouldn't put a price on it. It's just something that is a game changer. Just having that encouragement, that guidance, that support, it's very much needed. And for some of us, it's something we have to actively look for. And I think it's worth the investment of time, energy, money, whatever it takes to have these resources that can really take our work to the next level.
Speaking of the next level, I will wrap up our conversation. You talked about partnership and people that believe in you and going to the next level. And I don't think I'm bound by confidentiality because it wasn't a coaching day, the day we shared in Dollywood. And I'm just wondering if you could share with us what it felt like for us to partner with you to go to new heights and new levels, perhaps with the word roller coaster.
Rebecca made me get into a roller coaster for
growth in your personal life. Yes.
Yes, I went into a roller coaster for the first time in 15 years. And my conclusion after that experience was I had been making the correct decision for the past 15 years. But that's okay because you live and learn. You live and learn. And sometimes you need to take that step to say to yourself, you know what? I'm never going to take that step ever again.
Now, I do have an amazing photo of the before and
Oh, goodness.
after of that experience, which I suppose I probably will be bound by confidentiality to keep those. But it was such a fun day to spend with you, just investing in joy and fun and being together at the conclusion of some of our work together. But thank you so much for just allowing us to partner with you. It has been such an honor and privilege to watch you build towards your dreams, get clarity on what those are and how to accomplish them, and to see the success that you have built in all of the platforms that you're doing, all of the scholarly work that you're doing, the communications efforts. It has just been so fun to build your success with you. And I can't wait for 6 years from now to see where you are and what all you've accomplished. So thank you for sharing some of your life with us. Thank you for sharing this time to talk about what you've done in that time together. Is there anything else that you want to say before we close out this conversation, the story of your success behind the scenes?
I just want to say that I'm so grateful for you guys at Blueprint, Justin, Rebecca, and all the team, just having friends, partners who are cheering on me and providing the tools and believing in what I do is something that I treasure and that I'm going to take with me forever. So thank you. Thank you for everything you do.
That was behind the scenes with Blueprint, stories of your success with our longtime collaborator and friend, Ana Avila. We met 6 years ago over a networking breakfast in a hotel in Guatemala, and you never know where life will take you. But it's been such a joy and privilege to partner with her on her journey to becoming an integrated person, to doing integrated inquiry, and to contributing to an integrated church.